best year of my life as the image of a Marine, but the worst year because of everything that was happening behind that image. And no one ever knew because the mission was getting done, the mission was getting complete. And I continued to pour myself into work. That other life did not ever get questioned. I didn't want to show that I couldn't do it. I had so much pride in myself, and I didn't want to swallow my pride and ask for help. I felt, embarrassed if I would have said something, would have been looked at, or man, if I say something, well then, man, maybe they remove me and they take me off recruiting duty. And then now, man, if they take me off recruiting duty, how do I retire? And then now the mind starts spiraling. All these thoughts just start becoming overwhelming. It was a pivotal point in my career and my life in general.
Computer. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Crashing Combos. In this episode, we have Ryan Galante. I met Ryan through Veterans Future Foundation. He's a United States Marine Corps active duty member in the current process of transitioning. We're going to get into his background and yeah, we'll just kind of get into the conversation of it all. This series of the podcast kind of focusing on mental resilience, some of the keys that some of us have found that help us. At the end of the day, I ask you to take everything with a grain of salt, apply what works for you. If you are in mental crisis or have some questions, I ask you to do your own research, consult a medical provider. This is anecdotal. Take what you can from it, learn from what you can from it. And if you feel that this information will help you or a friend or family member, etc., please share. At the end of the day, we are discussing these topics and subjects to put the information out there and share what will work for us, and hopefully it'll work for you. Like at the end of the day, everyone's their own person with their own experiences, their own levels of difficulty with whatever you're struggling with. Yeah, we're just here having a conversation. So thanks, Ryan.
No, Simon, I appreciate that, brother. First of all, man, it's just an honor to be on here. Love having these conversations. I know before in the past, this was always something that I shied away from. And I know a lot of people in the service in general have always shied away from conversations, whether it's talking about themselves or sharing their stories. But more that I've been able to do that, the more that I've found out people have their own story that they want to share as well. We just keep things real bottled up inside us. So again, man, thanks for having me on here. Just a little bit background on myself. Grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Was into sports, soccer and football. Never really considered military as an option. And there was a career fair in high school. Recruiter man was standing there with table set up and everything. And there was a football flyer. I was like, oh man, like I'll join the Marine Corps, play football. Like, absolutely.
Got him.
Recruiter man got me, sold it and got me. Um, I was actually 17 when I was in high school, my senior year. And I was like, yeah, let me do this. I'll go into the reserves. I'll go to college. I'll play football for the Marine Corps. The reserves to kind of help uh, pay for some of that schooling, but also, kind of see what it's about. So graduated in June, and then in July I was on the Yellow Footprints down in Paris Island. Went through all the basic training, MCT, and then I graduated MCT. And for those that know anything about reserves, you're guaranteed an MOS, a job. So my job in the reserve unit I was supposed to go to was amphibious track. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll be a tracker, tank that floats in water, do some cool things. I graduate MCT and they're like, hey, here's your orders. I was like, this says food service. I was like, this is not the contract I signed. Um, so needs of the Marine Corps. So food service was what I did. And then checked into reserve unit and they were like, what are we supposed to do with a cook? I was like, don't ask me. I don't know. I'm here. Like I was
Yeah.
like, this is what the Marine Corps said I was doing. But I checked in, and immediately when I checked in, I thought I was gonna, hey, let me enroll in school, start some education, and play some football. It was hey, are you ready to deploy? Oh, so that kind of threw me off. But I was like, hey, this is kind of what I joined for, get some experience. So I was like, absolutely. Um, After that first deployment, came back. I stayed on the active duty orders for up to a year, and then enrolled into college. Did a semester of football, but I was that one deployment, that 6, 7 months that I had plus workups. Um, Man, it was just something there that I was missing when I was attending college. So I put in a package to go active duty. Took a while to get that process going through, but eventually transitioned from the reserves to active duty, and been on active duty ever since. So just going over 21 years now, um, and wouldn't regret anything that I've done and where I've been. But yeah, I mean that's a little bit of background on myself. And like Simon said, I got just under a year left, and I'll be retiring with a total of 22 years in the Marine Corps. Looking forward to it.
Dang. So, maybe I missed it, but what do you do now in the as active?
So I've had several different jobs. Um, First off, the food service was
Okay.
one of them. And then when I switched over, I had the opportunity to do a lateral move and change my job. So I switched over into motor transportation. I did that for about 9 or 10 years. I did, I believe it was five deployments as a motor transport operator, from 2005 to 2012. So within that 7 year time period, it's five deployments just back to back to back. Came back from the last one, and then switched over, or not switched over, but volunteered to do a special duty assignment and went on recruiting duty. After recruiting duty, I think I was around 14 or 15 years in service. And I was starting to think, okay, well, man, I got 5 more years till I hit 20. Like, what do I really want to do when I get out? And as much as I loved the Motor T community and the shenanigans that we did and the fun that we had, I wanted to kind of expand my knowledge and things that I've had in the service and things that I could use outside the Marine Corps. So then after recruiting duty, I did another lateral move package and went into communications. So I've been doing communications for the last 7, 8 years now. So there's no plans or intentions to do anything in communications when I retire, but it was definitely a uh, opportunity to kind of learn and experience another side of the Marine Corps and another job field. So
Yeah, and that's so when you said like I did a lot of different jobs, I kind of laugh because even if you're in one career field, you're still doing like multiple jobs or multiple additional duties within that one. So they do a good job of keeping you busy. I mean, I was so what specifically in comm are you like doing?
communication security.
Okay, I got
So
you.
yeah,
I got you now. I was comm. I was a cable and antenna. Oh, I was a cable dog. So
fire dogs.
yeah, man. And wiring. So it was in manholes, and we also did antennas. So we were climbing up comm towers, erecting towers, everything. And every assignment that I went to had its own mission. Moved around a lot, so I can relate to you on that. I'm curious, like, what were like the differences of each one of those cultures that you went from food service to motor T to comm?
Well, food service, cooking was cooking. I probably experienced more food service in the schoolhouse than I did in the fleet. I got to the fleet and I was like, hey, pass out the MREs. Like I was like, that was my job as food service. Hey, you're gonna scoop the hot job. So we weren't never cooked a meal. Once I actually hit the fleet as food service, I never worked in a chow hall or anything of that nature. Because again, the first time I was deployed as a track unit, so we were doing security overseas in Africa. So I
Mm,
wasn't cooking any meals or working in any DFACs or chow halls. So I was providing security, and then when I came back, it switched over into motor T. And comparing motor T and the communication side of the house, both are very uh, rely or relied on heavily. Motor T, of course, transportation. I mean, all the deployments of those convoys, it was getting supplies, it was getting food, ammo, like anything that you can think of. All these assets that people need throughout the theater and the air they're operating in. So it was very physically and mentally demanding. Over to the comp side of the house, it can be just as demanding, but I think it was more on a mental aspect, and it was more kind of seeing more of the operational side of the house. Motor T, I was still young, and it was like, hey, go do this. I'm like, okay, I'm just a Marine doing what I'm told, and I'm that worker bee. And then you go into the communication side of the house, and now you go more in depth into planning and operations and kind of understanding um, what the intent is, what we're doing, and how we're setting this up, and how we're going to execute it. I'm sure
Yeah.
Tom gets worked on all the time. If it ain't working, you, you're you're in
Yeah.
some hot water until the CO's got his calm up and things are working. After that, then you can kind of sit back and relax.
Yeah, and it went from, especially on deployments, it would go from like not doing nothing to like 7 days a week, 16 hours, whatever. And I mean, it all dictated on the mission. And if something wasn't working, you best believe all hands are on deck trying to fix whatever. Um, and yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I think that gives me like a unique view, and not to get into much of the current events, but especially when you get out, like it gives you a unique view, because you understand how you you learn to understand like how all the missions work together, especially from a comm standpoint, and you touch every mission pretty much one at one time or another, and you get to talk with people and understand like what their mission is, especially like my last 5 years, well, my last 7 years. I was in Germany. I was a part of a special comms unit. We maintained all of USAFE, and AFRICOM. And then my last, well, and plus various missions like Libya kicked off. So we were like kind of running around, like just supporting combat comm and replacing and putting more enduring comm, in Spain and Portugal and UK, everywhere. And then my last 5 years, I was part of the SPO. So we did acquisitions at the Air Operations Center. So I'm pretty sure you know what that is. That's pretty much the wedding cake general, all systems, like, kind of online. It's kind of like where you see the movie and you see like all the air assets. So that was pretty crazy. I was the program manager for radio systems, so Prick 117s, PSC 5s, etc. Right. And we maintained all bases around the world. So it gave me a unique perspective and a very high level viewpoint of the mission and how all the assets work together, especially like, with Purple Forces, with Marines and Army and everything else. So that was a pretty unique position to be in. But I say all that to say, yeah, I'm curious when were you in did you go to Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, or where
I
were
was
you
there
at?
in '05, 2005.
Okay, I was there in 2010 or 11. So that was a good time after you. It was probably like, were you still tents there, or did they have the
Yeah, it
cubes?
was all tense when I was there. All the
Yeah.
flooding, anything. We didn't have hardened structures.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't at the transition tent. I wasn't there long. I was there for like, I don't know, like a few weeks or so. We were just there to do AFN antenna,
Mhm.
and then like get out. But gave me appreciation for a new type of heat.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Yeah, the
yeah.
second we got off that plane, we landed, I believe we got there in the middle of the summer. So the second that door opened up from the plane, it was like a blow dryer just in your face
Yeah.
constantly. Yeah, it was a totally different type of heat, and the bugs there were
Mm,
insane.
yeah.
We'd be on post and just having a chart of how many we killed on post because it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
for
it
folks that, yeah, I'm sorry, let me cut you off. Go ahead.
But that deployment alone, as much as we were doing security, and it was funny. Everyone, all my friends and family, like, "Oh, you're in the jungle. You're in Africa. You seeing lions and tigers." I was like, "I'm not in that part of Africa." But being there, and seeing another world, um, agriculture environment, like it gives you so much more of an appreciation for when you do get back home and all the things that we had. I know there's a lot of um, different opinions on what we do and the places that we go to overseas. But man, it's the work that we're doing in some of these areas is very impactful for some of these communities, and seeing that and to be able to kind of be a part of that was huge. It was awesome.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. So one, for folks that don't know, it's just I'm not going to specifics, but I thought the same thing. Well, one, it's 11 degrees from the equator, so that's a different type of hot, like you the UV rays and all that stuff, right? Plus, you're like, well, you're on doxy, for like malaria and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be in the sun, all that stuff. I learned that my skin turned literally like purple, from being on a tower all day. Um, Either way, but yes, when I landed there, I didn't realize I had these thoughts, but just like your family, I was surprised to see like technology. Honestly, I was expecting to see lions and fucking monkeys and shit. Sahara. That I just National Geographic is what I thought because that's all I knew. And I
Yep.
didn't know I had those thoughts until I landed there. And I was like, man, I feel like an asshole. Dude, I saw, and talking about appreciation, it gave me a different appreciation I didn't expect. So, when you land there, you're landing in the same airport as where the base is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm waiting on the bus, right? We're waiting for everyone to kind of get the bus for everyone so we can just drive around, right? And go to the base. And as I'm sitting there, I'm looking out the window and the main drag is right there, like a main street. I see a bus pull up, like a school bus, and the bus stops and the kids are jumping on and literally jumping through the windows. And then the bus is driving off, dude. And they're open the freaking back door. They opened the back door and they're jumping into the back door as the bus was leaving. And I was like, man, I hated school. And I don't think I would have went through that much trouble to go to school. But yeah, man, it's a whole different level of appreciation, man. Like they really want to get their education there so much so they're risking their lives for it.
That reminds me when you're talking about them jumping on the bus and stuff like that. I mean, they're doing that on the moving trains and everything, but they they absolutely deny physics. And what I mean by that, when you see some of these cars driving by, the amount of stuff stacked on top
Yeah.
with just some strings, some rope, and then you got someone maybe sitting on top of it or hanging on the side. That blew my mind. Uh, it was something else. Like I said, the moving trains are walking and they're just hopping on, they're walking across the top like no fear, no care in the world.
Yeah, it's a different
It
world.
is.
Yeah, different world and a different appreciation, like you said. Or like yeah, you said earlier. But that's just the reality, right? It's not like it's just to experience that and see that, and that's one of the things, the benefits that the military does for those that served and are lucky enough to go overseas and experience other cultures. And then when we come back home, it's like it brings that different appreciation. And if I feel like if most people could travel and truly get an appreciation for how lucky we are to be born in this country, regardless of the politics and everything else that you know kind of gets overshadowed. I believe in my heart that I'd say the majority of people, I'd say like all of them that serve are trying to make and believe we are making a change in the world for the positive, right? Now I'll just kind of say this and we'll kind of move on. But like, I mean, as far as like politics and everything else, like the powers that be that do their things or whatever, like we get kind of washed up in it. The serving in the military with all branches, I've served with the best people that I've um, come to know, and I appreciate them as much as family, if not more, because of the things that I've seen and experienced, and to hear their hearts, and from all walks of life, mind you. It's pretty amazing.
That dude, and it goes the same for not just our branches of service. But even all the foreign branches and the NATO and allied nations that we work with, I'm sure you've done as well, again, with all the
Yeah.
areas that you're talking about and just comms and in general, the different entities that you got to communicate with and talk with to get comms up or to make sure comms are good. But even just working alongside these, we're, of course, with the NATO now, we're out in Norway, Finland. I'm working with those individuals. Um, and they have such a high aspiration of what we do as well too. But I mean, it's so cool just to have that experience. And I guess in the moment you won't think about it, like we're like, man, this sucks. I gotta go here and I gotta go there and I gotta set up this antenna or I gotta do this job. But if you actually take a second just to step back and one, see the culture that you're in, um, the people that you get to kind of associate with and work with and learn from, it's again, it's an amazing experience, and that kind of goes into understanding life and looking at life in different perspectives. And we hit on a little bit like America, like man, people if they could just see how much poverty or how much less people actually have and how happy they are to jump on school buses with no windows or
Hmm.
doors or not have running water and they're thriving in their communities and then man it's a whole nother lens that you step back from and show an appreciation and gratitude and again I'm very fortunate to be able to have those experiences.
Yeah, it definitely gave me an understanding. And I had this conversation actually with another Marine who's in the Philippines or somewhere. It's like there's levels to poverty. Like I grew up, in my opinion, I thought like we were like poor, right? And I grew up in a low income district and all these things, right? I didn't know any better, right? And at the same time, they don't know any better as well. And that's not a shot or nothing, but comparatively to some of the other countries I've been to, like man, I was like, man, I was rich, I was rich on many levels. And were things perfect? And did I always have food? No, but comparatively, I didn't have to walk like miles to go get water,
Dude,
with no.
most
So like those very basic things, like it definitely it brings a different level of an understanding and appreciation. And don't get me wrong, like I take for granted a lot of the stuff I have. I mean, just in this room alone, like who, like you know what I mean? Like it's just, and I I try to bring it back to being grateful, right? And that mindset, and because I know like one day I won't have all that, or I hope not, but if all this goes away today or tomorrow, like if, as long as I have my health, right? And there's a pro saying it's like, yeah, something like you don't know it, you don't, as long as, yeah, of course I'm gonna jack it up, but it's pretty much saying like you don't have problems until you don't have your health or something like that. But yeah, the experience and to come back and I don't know, just I wish I could just take some people and just take them over there and just let them experience it for themselves and just have that awareness and that awakening, if you will, like to appreciate what you got. Because yeah, and that definitely gave me a course where I'm going into different experiences, but it also gave me like an understanding of there are two constants in this world. You want to call them dark and light. There's good and evil, like that spectrum, and I've seen exist in various different forms, and and we'll get into this later, but like we're talking about like faith and stuff, but yeah, I'm curious, like when you came back from some of these deployments, was it hard to kind of get back into garrison and do the things that you normally do in garrison?
so for me I say no because the way my situation was. Like I said, from 2005 to 2012, it's 7 years. I was five deployments. I did within those 7 years. So when we say come back to Garrison, come back home and like readjust to get back into our normal routine, like I don't think, like looking back, I don't think I ever adjusted. It was I came back, yeah, you get your block leave, but it was like, hey, we're doing workups to go on another deployment. Like, so I'd come back from a deployment, maybe get, somewhere between 2 weeks off, go have some fun, go back home, see some family. But then it was like, hey, we got another deployment back in training. So it was for me like it was never a dwell time. So my mind was just always deploy, 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 and it was always in that that fight or flight mentality. So I was always on the go. I was always ready, and it kind of after against getting help in 2016 and then again in 2022, my mind and my that anger and all these emotions that I had, I never decompressed from those 7 years. And then going right after, those deployments right into recruiting. And then that's, we say it's 36 1 month deployments because every month's a new month. You got to meet a quota, you got to do a mission. Then, tack on another 36-month deployments with a very high stress, mission of meeting the quota and doing that. So there was never a time that I was just like, okay, let me decompress. Let me reflect back on what happened, the things that I saw, the things that I did, the things that happened, and then get back into a normal, whatever normal is, type routine or lifestyle. And again, it wasn't until 2016 and then again in 2022 where I was like, there's something wrong. Um, and I don't feel like I was myself at that point. But yeah, I I don't think there was a time in that time frame where I was back to normal. I was still in that ready and that fight mode at all time.
Yeah. So it sounds like when things slowed down, like when the ops tempo slowed down, is when you started to recognize that you were not yourself, or like you just didn't feel right. Um, yeah, and
And
that's go ahead.
and to go back to that too, like back then, invasion was going on in Iraq. Afghanistan was kicking off. So the mindset was, oh, we're just going to deploy, and this is the thing, and to stay in that mindset. Um, and that was kind of like what people want to do. Like, I want to deploy, I want to
Yeah,
deploy, and hey, when I get back, oh, I want to deploy again. And it was like, hold on, like if, and then we talk about perspective and looking at this from a different lens. You have a Marine that just wants to deploy. He's top tier, great individual, gets the job done. Hey, let's send him again. Let's keep sending them, right? And from one perspective, like, oh, this is a motivator. Right? This is a high charger, great Marine, constantly, the tip of the spear. We can send him anytime, a fire and forget weapon. Don't have to question this individual or check up on this individual. They're good to go. But in the other perspective, why is this Marine always wanting to be away? Why is this Marine always wanting to deploy? Why is this Marine not, decompressing? And, I think we think more on that stuff now. Like these are these signs like, hold on, like, is there something else that you don't want to be home? You don't want to be stateside with family. Like this is your fifth deployment in 7 years. Like you haven't had time to just breathe. So I think that's those two different perspectives. Like, hey, you're a hard charger, and hey, hold on, is there something underlying that you're running from? Um, so, and again, like I said, it's a high tempo deployment type era where people just looked at it as like, oh no, this is a Marine that just wants to deploy. Like let's let him do this. And again, looking back on that, like I think I would just wanted to stay in that mindset and running from not addressing, things that I just kept pushing down and thinking these deployments, I just kept deploying, like these issues would go away. And of course, in 2016 and 2022 was not the case.
yeah, and obviously we've had different experiences, different branches, but saying similarly to me, um, and the way that the at least my experience, like the deployment cycle changed. I mean, of course, it changes within 20 years, rate of service. Everything changes in the military, like new general or something. usually change stuff around. Uh, but for us, we deployed on a with a minimal footprint, with a small footprint. So we would like we didn't deploy in units or tracks. We deployed in buckets, right? And I deployed in like onesie twosies. So I would meet my guys from other bases that would just meet up there. We had to learn each other, work together, and by the time we really got in the groove, we left. So there was a lot of that, right? And that was beneficial on some levels. But also when we got back to duty station, like there was workup before some of these deployments, and then
Yeah.
you get back to duty station, and then you're just back in garrison life, right? There's no training like the Marines do, or the Army, where there's like, hey man, we're back, we're gonna work on the things that we learned and etc. Right, and continue training. So there was a lot of low points, but whether I decompressed or not, like I just kind of fell back into, because we didn't drink for X amount of months, right? And so I just kind of fell back into and I didn't understand, right? And nor that was I even aware. And even if I was, like, you don't want to lose security clearance. You're always trying to go back to the next deployment. So like, and I heard a commander say this once, maybe twice, a few of them. It was like, when the chips are down, ride your thoroughbreds. And it's just like, yes, you are you're the high performer. No good deed goes unpunished. That's another one I've heard. Um, and that's cool. But if the tools or the awareness isn't there, that even that this is a likelihood that these things could happen or are possible, then you kind of just press forward, right? And depending, like, as men, our culture, I'm assuming we grew up in the same culture. You can't really talk about it. You can't really, like, as a man, like, don't, man up or whatever, all these things, right?
Man up, suck it up. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's time for, I feel like there's, I know this now, like, yes, there's like, time and place. There is time to do these things. Like, if something's going on and shit needs to get done, you need to, like, like, now I'm learning, like, when you have time, decompress, process, and then move on, right? Because if not, it's just going to keep bottling up, and then you're going to explode or whatever. But when my low point is when, like, everything stopped for me. So my last duty station, my ops tempo went way down. I left my unit, where my career field. I went into acquisitions, different language, different leadership style. It was more lax there, and it was good in a lot of ways. And I'll say this to say everything happens for a reason, right? And because if I didn't have that unit, and have that awareness or that calm time, I would have never got to the place where I am now and recognized what was going on and had the leadership to support. I say all that to say the book Tribe. Have you read that book?
Yeah.
Sebastian Younger. Okay. Yeah. So that book gave me a new perspective, right? That it's not always the guys on the front lines that are doing it's the ops tempo, it's the community you're in, it's the, like, being detached from that, and then not understanding what happened, right? Or even understand that was a thing. So I don't want to say too much of it. That book kind of, so anybody's listening, if you guys, you don't have to be military. It goes into several, it's called Tribe by Sebastian Younger. It goes into different times in the world at war or just hard times, depression or what have you, where people had to come together to survive. And it's very eye opening, and at the very least, it'll help you understand the human condition, right? And how we to strive and how we survive to this point, right? As well as aware of, like, if you've been in any type of bonding traumatic scenarios, and then you kind of left that, even though you should have, you wanted to get out of it, and then you finally get out of it, and you're like kind of missing it. It gives you a understanding of what that situation is and what's happening to you afterwards. But I say all that to say, like, yeah, it's and I'm finding a common parallel with that. It's like when I had a buddy on. Did you remember Jeff Dardia? He went through
Mm-mm.
CPT with us. Green Beret, just retired. Very knowledgeable. I had him on. Actually, the podcast is out today. This won't air for some time, but he gets into, like, how a lot of service members, they start hitting their wall around 15 to 16 years, like later on in the careers, and that makes sense, right? Because depending on what your MOS is, your FSC, you start that's the times that you start taking out of your the worker bee level, if you were the tactical level, and you're getting put in a administration, or as a like the more rank you have, you get put in these positions where you're like staff or whatever. And then a lot of times it can manifest itself in the way of just throwing yourself into your work. You're staying busy, and I hear that a lot. I just gotta stay busy. The more you stay busy, the more you compound your problems. I'm speaking from experience. This is what I did. It's all about the mission, and as long as the mission's getting done, you're being successful. I must be good, right? If the mission's getting done, I'm still getting awards, I'm still getting accolades, whatever. But yet, I'm not okay because when I go home, it's a different story. I talk about it like I'd get home and I would like take off my mask, if you will, like, and it would just my family would get the brunt of it, right? It's not great. It's not fun to talk about, but that's the reality of it. Um, and yeah,
It's so very true though. I mean, because like you mentioned before, that op tempo, whether it's the deployments or whether it's you're that worker, enlisted or even officers, right? Like you're doing everything that you can to prove yourselves in the beginning years, and then once that op tempo kind of slows down, and now you're at a desk, a chair, where you're taking more of a command approach. That op tempo slows down. So now some of these things that you push down and try to push away start coming to light. Now some of this anger, the frustration, your irritability, all that starts showing up. And because we never addressed it before. And then there's something else that you mentioned about earlier. The deployments that you were doing. You're like, oh, my guys are over here. I get to go with them. I go with them, and a part of us always wanted to do that, and we want to be with our guys. We want to be out there, in the case something happens, or just be around them because of that bond that we built. But then that goes back to the garrison mindset too. And if I say my shoulder hurts, my back hurts, my knee hurts, or hey, I got some thoughts in my head, man, now there's a chance that I don't get to go overseas and be with my guy. There's a chance that I don't get to deploy. So it's kind of like we did it to ourselves, but I think it's also the culture that we were brought up in. It's like, man, just suck it up, man up, and just we'll deal with that later. And once that you hit that 15, 16-year mark and things start slowing down, that later starts to creep up on you. And now you're having to deal with so many compounded issues that you put off for so long. And it's an overwhelming feeling mentally, and it becomes so exhaustion. And then you come home and like you said, the family gets the brunt of it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and again, it's the same thing that happened to me. I dove into work. I put everything I had into work and to maintaining this image as a Marine. If I could be successful at work, and I talk about this all the time. We so much into this habit, this routine. When we do the greetings of the day, it's like, "Hey, how you doing? Morning, sir. Morning, ma'am. Whatever." It's like, "Oh, good, great, cool," and we continue to walk by. So we put on this facade like everything's good. Really, if you just stop that individual and change that narrative, change that automatic reply and ask a different question, it flips a switch. It's like, hold on, oh shit, this person actually sees me, they hear me, they want to stop and talk to me. You know, I'm not okay. And it could be just that little thing and asking a different question. For a long time, like I said, I just continued to say that I was okay. And then, man, 2000, like I said, 2016 was. I say this, it was the best year and the worst year. Best year on E-SIG. Staff Sergeant in the Marine Corps. I'm on recruiting duty, running the recruiting station as a staff NCO. I see, this staff NCO in charge, and it's the recruiting station that I got recruited out of. So like full circle now, I'm in my hometown. I'm running the recruiting station. I'm a staff sergeant. We're making mission. Everything's great. Married, have my first house that I bought. So it's like the dream and the image that I've always had in my head, being a successful Marine, having a family, having a house. Well, 2016 was also the year I was a victim of domestic assault. My house foreclosed. The car was repossessed. Still owed $10,000 on it. I had $20,000 in credit card debt. I had $5.61 in my bank account. But when I showed up to work, I was just staff sergeant and everything was fine. But on the other side of that, like the best year of my life as the image of a Marine, but the worst year because of everything that was happening behind that image. And no one ever knew because the mission was getting done, the mission was getting complete. And then I continued to pour myself into work, continue to dive into work. So that other life did not ever get questioned. I didn't want to show that I was couldn't do it. I had so much pride in myself. I didn't want to swallow my pride and ask for help. I felt, embarrassed if I would have said something, would have been looked at, or man, if I say something, well then man, maybe they remove me and they take me off recruiting duty. And then now, man, if they take me off recruiting duty and do I get to finish my career? And what if how do I retire? And then now the mind starts spiraling. All these thoughts just start becoming overwhelming. And it was a pivotal point in my career and my life in general. And man, I hit the all time low. Like I was pushing stuff down and eventually it crumbled.
Yeah. That's a lot, like all at once. Yeah, and I've had I think that's something we could all relate to, especially service members, especially as a leader, right? Because it points out, and forgive me if I'm off base here, but at least for me, like when at least the last time I had to admit and give up, not give up, that's not the right word, to admit that I didn't have the answers and I needed help and what I was doing on my own. I had to swallow my pride. And I was a mass sergeant at the time, and I went into inpatient, but at that point, like, I don't know, it was just like, I didn't know what else to do. The things that I was doing was not working. I didn't know there was a problem. I had to be shown the things, right? And then on top of that, like, at the end of the day, dude, like, it's very common. It's so common, but I feel like in our minds, like, we're trying to keep a lid on it and try to sustain and keep the image of what we project ourselves to be and our ego and all these things. That's a double-edged sword of it, right? Like, what makes us successful at work makes us unsuccessful in all the other things in our life. Especially like you factor in like deployments and you deploy a lot. We get in some ways, and this isn't for everyone's experience, deployments are easier because we don't have to worry about bills, so to speak. Like, we kind of have auto pay. We don't have to worry about cutting the grass. We don't have traffic, none of that stuff. We got other problems, but uh, for the most part, like, chow's taken care of for the most part. I mean, considering where we're deployed and the things we did, and then we come back to garrison, we like have to like relearn and fall back into the roles of our lives, right? The lives that we kind of put on hold. On top of that, family, they get used to being without us. I spent most of my career like away from like my wife, and then I also went through a divorce. So like, there's various times in my career where I had lows, right? Like, as most of us do, and we try to hide and we try to project and we try um to to be the leader, right? And show, like, walk the path and this is what we're doing and look at. But at the end of the day, man, like, and this is one of the reasons why I started this podcast or even want to go get help, right? Kind of talking about pulling NCOs to the side or like your Marines and be like, hey man, how you doing? Like, you good? I would do that for others, but and I would tell people like, hey man, well, if there's services and all these things, but I wasn't doing it myself. So it's like I would tell people like, well, yeah, I mean, what good is a security clearance, right? Because that's one of the other things that will prevent us from going to go get help, right? I don't want to lose my security clearance. But I would say this thing like, well, I mean, security clearance isn't. I would say something along the lines of like, what's the point of having security clearance if you're dead? You know what I mean? And it was, yeah,
Very
it
true.
sounded good, but what was I
Yeah.
doing? You know what I mean? I was so focused on the outside of me that I wasn't even focusing on like what was going on with me or even aware that something was going on with me. And it's like it's amazing what we get used to. And two, it's like it's gradual. Like addiction's gradual. At least for most people, in my opinion. Like alcohol was gradual. I was gradually getting addicted to alcohol. And we gradually get addicted to work. We gradually get addicted to validation and all these things, right? Comfort. And I can go on and on and on. Even positive things can be addicting.
Yeah, it's just like they say, a habit takes 30 days, to make it consistent, stuff like that. And that goes for good or bad, good
Yeah,
habits and bad habits. And the addiction, like what you talked about, we continuously do things that are harming us, it becomes normal,
yeah,
becomes natural, and we don't think something's wrong with us. And going back to what you said, like as we progress, we feel like we have to portray ourselves as this leader, but that does mean we can't show that we have issues as well. We think if we show weakness and we say, "Oh, I'm having problems with this," like people think of us as less of a leader. When really, when you're open and authentic and transparent with those around you, man, it's you share that story, you open up, and you're like, "Oh shit, hey, I went through something similar. Hey, this is what helped me." Like, "Oh damn, you were struggling too, or you went through that, or whatever the case may be." And we get so caught up on this image that we need to portray, and it's like you said from the beginning, we all have some kind of experience, have some kind of story, and the more that we can be open and share these experiences, the more physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially that we can grow and be so much better.
yeah, man. And this is a different way of being a leader. It's not when, and I think I'm projecting here, but I feel like I used to think that people talking about their problems were trying to get some type of attention, right? And yes, that's far and few between. There are people like that. But it depends how, like you said, authenticity, right? And how you're doing it and how you're talking about it. And then, like, are you choosing to stay in the victim mentality, right? I feel like that's a stage of the process, but at some point we have to decide to come out of that mindset.
Man,
Because
I gotta throw this in there real
go ahead,
quick.
man,
So
go ahead.
my my boy Cam would say this, and oh man, he's awesome. But he would say it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to stay there. And when you talk about victimizing, shaming, like, we all have our days. Life's gonna throw us, sandwich, whatever you want to call it, man. Stress is inevitable. Um, how we deal with it, how we choose to deal with it, wholly up to us. So it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have those days. It's not okay to stay there though. Always reach out. Always say something. Because there's people like you and me, so many people um, that want to help. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I mean, it's a skill, right? It's um a skill asking for help, right? And then paying it forward, right? Being there, being that voice for somebody else, or sharing that experience in the right set and setting, right? Because I think even like sharing too much, like, and I always take it back to the military, right? And I feel the intent was in the right place, but what human nature is to kind of, so every year, right? Suicide prevention, right? There's the briefings, the mass briefings, and then you have to, for the commander, right? They got to check it off. Like, yes, all my guys got this. It's checking a box. But what happens
Yep.
is, especially with us, right? Military culture, we got dark humor, and it just becomes like a running joke, right? Um, but when the same message is said over and over and over in the same way, and there's no like nuance to it, or like you can't personalize it, then it kind of just falls on deaf ears at the end of the day. Like, right? Like you do the CBT training and you check the box and it's like, all right, next thing. But there's like no personal. I don't know. This is my when I served, right? I didn't hear many people sharing their stories, right? In the right way. Well, not say the right way, but sharing their stories, right? I didn't see any leaders that I can recall. Maybe I'm wrong, and somebody that I serve with can call me out. Please do. But I think it hits differently. And granted, there were the one-offs, right? Like friends that I knew that took their lives in the military, right? But a lot of times it was for protection of the family, right? We really didn't hear specifics. We kind of heard it like through the grapevine, if you will, unless you were the person that responded to the call. And then afterwards, it was like, a moment of silence and all these things. And like, hey, we're here to, you want to talk. But again, like there wasn't like this place other than like mental health or that you can go talk to factoring security clearances, deployments, all these things, right? And then the perception of how people view you. There's so many different layers to it. But I feel like I said a lot there, and
It is, man. And I mean, it it became so monotonous that it was like, oh, here's another PowerPoint slide.
yeah,
Um, then you start to question, like, man, does anyone even care? Do they care about me? Like, man, I have an issue, but all they're gonna do is go tell me, go see the chaplain or something.
yeah,
So like we talk about, intentional, being authentic, like just be open. And man, I talk about this all the time as well. We get so caught up in this military mindset. Like at the end of the day, like that uniform comes off. We're all humans. And we deal with the things completely different. And we do have dark humors, and sometimes we hide behind that dark humor to kind of desensitize the situation and not really address issue. But
right.
it's just
Mhm.
asking those questions like, hold on, man. Hey, Simon, you seem a little off, brother. Like, what's going on, man? Like
Yeah,
when we can have those actual connections, and Marine Corps is doing an amazing job in establishing what they have is the Oscar program. Excuse me, operational stress, combat, and readiness. They're actually coming out with a new um, publication, um, but it has what you mentioned, the stories in there, stories of service members, stories of what they went through. So this way,
that's
it's
awesome.
not a PowerPoint slide. It's something that can resonate with people. So we can have that ripple effect. So we can reach the masses, be true, authentic, and transparent of things that people have gone through. And I mean, hopefully that resonates because, man, those that know that the suicide numbers they're insane,
Yeah,
and they haven't gotten better.
it's definitely
Um,
more than 22 a day.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, and somebody asked me. It was actually a Marine that asked me. That question was so one of the nonprofits I got him. I was blessed to be invited to was the Robert Irvine Foundation, and I got to do a 54-mile yomp in Scotland last year, and I got invited back to do it again this year. But then somebody asked me, which I still need to reach out to him. But yeah, I shared this with you, right? The list I put together of things like how to prevent suicide and my
yep,
own personal. I mean, but one of the ways is vulnerability, right? I highlighted that by leaders and then having these conversations. But I say all that to say, like, this is the one of the ways, and I'm not saying this is the only way, but one of the ways to start to address it and demystify it. And it's not even just a military thing, first responders, and like it's a human condition, right? Um, and I feel like the veteran population is one of the few populations left that still have some shred of credibility left. And I don't want to get too far into that, but and if we could start to so with the Dirt Therapy Project, right? One of the ways I envision it and the way I kind of um that we kind of carry ourselves within the community is to be that big brother in the community, right? And it's not to say like but it's just like being the way we were in the military, and it's just like we're riding bikes where just being the scene face, as my wife says, be the scene face, and then like it's amazing. Like I don't bring up conversations about suicide or nothing like that. I'm not having a briefing. Um, but we go out ride bikes, and then within time, uh, and conversations like this with leaders like yourself, people will approach me, and it's just I think it's just being like one the scene face, and two like doing the work right, and three like embodying that right. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it's like being serious when it's time to be serious, and be there for people when it's time to be there for someone. Make time, uh, space for them, right, and just hear them out and try to help them unwind their own knot. Because at the end of the day, like you can show people the door, but they have to walk through it.
100%. And I think, you know, to your point, the more that we can have these events where it's the dirt therapy project or just any kind of social event, just kind of getting outdoors. Um, First of all, the psychological effects that outdoors has, man, just the sun, the sky, like the nature itself, is so powerful. But again, when you even just having a conversation and talking to people, then you start building that bond and that trust. Same thing that you had in the military, to that person to the left and right of you. And then when they feel comfortable, and now you hold space for that individual, they share their story. And
Yeah.
we don't have to be licensed clinicians. You don't have to be, you know, a doctor, professor, or even any studies in any of this field. You can just be an ear for somebody to talk and to vent and to open up about. And that in itself is healing. That breeds vulnerability. So the more that we can be vulnerable, more that we just be opened up, allows other people to feel comfortable and do the same.
Yeah, man. And I mean, that's well said. And that's what it is. It's just like being the same face and just kind of being an ear. And then, because 9 times out of 10, I'd say 10 times out of 10, people already know what they need to do. They already have the answer. And sometimes them saying that answer out loud click something in their head, and they move forward with it, right? Because a lot of times they've never said it out loud. So just kind of allowing that space for them to say what they need to say can do everything, right? Um, and just be that support in that way. Um, so, speaking of nature, man, and that's what brought me here. There's a lot of things that brought me here, but that's one of the keys that when I retired, dude, I bought myself a mountain bike, and people probably that listen to the podcast were like, "All right, dude, we're gonna hear about this freaking story again. You bought a mountain bike, dude. I get it." But it was just grabbing the straws in the dark. But I say all that to say, like, getting in nature, um, one, it gave me a different perspective on my own city, right? I grew up in San Antonio. Um, Dude, we barely left the neighborhood. You know, we would go to like to the lake every once in a while, but it was primarily the neighborhood, right? And but that was but I never went to trails here. I don't recall ever going to trails here, or did I have a mountain bike, or mountain biking wasn't even a thing. I did have like a Huffy in the front yard that I try to jump shit with, and I crashed then too. But it was I don't know. It's like tying something back to something, and not everyone had a bike. I get that, but tying something back to play, to tie it back to like a simpler time in life. Those moments you're playing with your cousins all night, and yeah, the freaking line of mule right there with the freaking the dirt chain. But it's like finding ways to play again, and that's what riding a bike was for me. And I didn't even know that. I just bought it, and that was my retirement present. Most expensive bike I ever bought in my life at the time, but it's paid dividends well, like many times over. But one of those ways is nature, and uh, that's what kind of started getting me back on the path and the understanding of the idea of God, right? By San Antonio, that we don't have mountains or nothing like that, but just I think it's my natural curiosity that I have, and just seeing like the trees, and like but paying attention to the nuances of the trees. So I go out on rides on my own, and then I'll be whatever thinking about whatever, or not thinking, and I'd be by myself a lot of times when I first started riding, and then I would just kind of see like just simple things like when a tree breaks and then like it grows around each other. And I started seeing like the parallels with humans and us, right? And you break a bone and then it heals over. You can't see like the big growth, but if we didn't have a cast there, I'm pretty sure it'd be a lot fatter, but it would heal in the same way a tree does. And then like going down rabbit holes on YouTube, understanding like how trees work, how they communicate with each other, how they share like nutrients, and they share like deterrents for like beetles and stuff like that, and mother trees. It's fascinating, right? And then I continue to pull back the layer, right? And that's another reason for the podcast. I've gone into all kinds of conversations, right? Because it's like whether I realize it or not, it's like to understand something as great, as big, as huge, and as the idea of a creator is fascinating to me, and a question that I feel like I, sh- I mean, perhaps I wasn't ready then, and we can get into like forced religion and all that stuff growing up, and like living a life that was not in line with the belief system, etc. Right? But either way, I took like the very scenic route to start to come back to it, and one of the ways is in conversations and having people on that I didn't expect them to get into their beliefs, and they did, and it sparked more curiosity. I would look up stuff, and I continue to do that, and I'll probably do that to the day I die. Um, but yeah, something as fascinating and as all the data points that creates our world, right, and our understanding, and like science is barely catching up to understanding. Just because we can recreate something like CRISPR in a lab or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, we don't need God no more." It's like, yeah, that's like one little thing in a vast universe of things we don't understand. Like you, just because you could, anyways.
No, but to your point and the nature and faith, and I was actually probably about 2 weeks ago. I was talking to another grad from UHP, and we're diving into Proverbs. And the verse I shared with them is, lean not on your own understanding. Um, and it kind of goes exactly what you're saying, man. So my go-to is always the beach. Always been around it, but just being fascinated of just the ocean waves and the sound and my feet in the sand. But when we talk about leaning not on your own understanding, um, when 2016 came and um I kept asking myself, man, why is all this happening? Why, like, what did I do? Why do I deserve this? And I called my mom. Like, I was leaving work and I pulled over on the side of the road and I was in tears, bawling. Um, and I was like, Ma, I just I can't do it anymore. Like, I can't take this. I don't know what to do. Um, Again, my mom just said, lean into your faith. For the longest time, and you talked about it, like I felt like faith was kind of on me growing up, like Sunday school, church service, like this is what it was. And it's like, man, I don't want to wake up early. I don't want to do this. Um, and I would say I was a faithful religious man, and practicing none of that. And so when I had that call with my mom, and she told me to just lean on my faith and trust the Lord, that's what I did. And man, it saved me so much. I stopped asking questions why, why me? Instead, I would ask, what, Lord, are you trying to teach? What can I take from this? What can I learn from this? How can I be better? How can I grow? And started going back to church, and again, leaning not on my own understanding, not questioning why, questioning, okay, what is this showing me? Is
Yeah,
how can I grow from this? And there, so man, it's I'm glad you brought it up too, because faith is, and everyone has their own different faiths and stuff like that. But I think just the spiritual fitness alone and believing in a higher power, believing in something, um, can help you in so many dark places. And again, whether it's, believing in a higher power through nature and just seeing how are these ways and things created out there and how do they, communicate, like you said, and can really, really get you out of these dark places and get you out of those that mindset from spiraling and staying in that dark place.
yeah. I mean, well said. And Um, I talked about this on the last podcast, but yeah, it's part of the reason why it's part of the 12-step program, because at some point, and even in general, like in order to do something for, so some people are like, or I've heard often, it's like, well, you should do it for yourself, right? You should get better for yourself. Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to do it for yourself. But I've said this before, if you don't give a fuck about yourself, then why would you do it for yourself? You know what I mean? And that's where I was, right? So having said that, like it's keeping your world small and finding something to do it for as a temporary rung, and to continue to grow that idea and continue to move while you're doing it until you get to the point where you're doing it for yourself. Because we do it with a person or for a person, and that person, I don't know, dies or leaves or whatever. You know, they're human. They're gonna fail you eventually. But if you can learn to understand, like it's only temporary, and not to, it's not fair to the person either, right? Uh, and not sustainable, I should say. But on top of that, like part of the 12-step program is believing something greater than yourself, right? I was always stuck on step one, you know. I never got past that. But what I really did understand was the people that were in recovery really found that understanding of believing in something greater, because when everyone else falls away, eventually, like especially in a transition point where let's say you just have pushed everyone away, or you don't have a circle, or you don't trust people, whatever the case may be, that's where you can't get through this world on your own. And yeah, it sounds sexy to be like, I did it on my own. Like, no, you didn't. I don't care what anybody says. Somebody had to help you, whether they gave you a loan or there was always somebody along the way that helped you. And the way what I've learned, and what I learned in Scotland, and I haven't shared this too much, but God will work through people. And if you are aware
100%.
enough, yeah, if you are aware enough, and also the other side too, right? The dark side will work through people. Um, But if you are aware enough and your heart is open enough and if you're seeking, you will start to see and feel the presence. Right? Granted, if I would have heard myself saying this like 15 years ago, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I mean, I say that to say like to come to this understanding, and I'm still trying to do that for myself. And you talked about faith, right? Faith is one of the hardest things that you'll ever have to do, in my opinion, so far. Is to believe and understand. And it's funny because we practice it in a lot of other things, right? We practice it when we put our calendar together, which I'm getting better at it. And once I left the military, I was like, I don't want shit to do with calendars, right? Uh, we practice faith in putting in like something to count. Hey, we're gonna do this tomorrow. We're gonna go to the beach this weekend. We're gonna do this, this, and that. But yet, when we have to believe in something we can't see or understand, it's hard, right? And I used to think that believing in God was easy because you it was like, oh man, it's easy because you just kind of like let it go and you just feel like something else is in control and you don't have to worry about anything. My point is like it's one of the hardest things I'm learning to do, accepting. Two, it's like understanding. And three, it's like having faith, and that's all. It's a skill, in my opinion. And the more you practice it, the better you get better at it. And like even prayer too, prayer, um, the intent. And I kind of talked about this in the last podcast too. I don't know what's your nationality.
Puerto Rican and Italian.
Okay, so you know like the bodegas and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Where okay, so like whether it's called Santeria, witchcraft, whatever, like that's all based off of like intent, right? And the belief of something. But I'm not advocating for that. But what I am saying is what you connect with, whether you call it negativity or positivity, but like to connect to the main, this is my belief and my understanding to this point. What you connect to and what you believe in, So I choose to believe in uh, God, the greater good, right? And tap into that and hone that, because prayer, and you can get into like, granted, I'm probably misunderstanding this. It's a very wild concept, and it's kind of sexy now, but quantum entanglement is like the basis of, so like if somebody walks in the room with a bad vibe, bad energy, and you feel it upon yourself, there's something that happens with it that is within your magnetic field, right? That is affected. You absorb it. We are water. The water is impacted based off of their mood, energy. You can look at the rice experiment, Masaru Emoto, where they put intent in water as it's crystallizing, and are you tracking what I'm talking about, or am I just off base?
No, I haven't seen it.
I'll send it to you afterwards. But they put intent in water that's crystallizing, so it's like jealousy, anger, rage, and it forms in this chaotic, ugly, like geometric, ugly pattern. It's not even geometric pattern, but like love, joy, any positive, it forms in this beautiful like pattern as it's crystallizing. So with that, let's like, and but like prayer with the intent and connecting with God and pushing forward that that energy to directing it at someone can affect somebody in the same way. Like that, I think that's what prayer, and the more people that pray in that direction, like let's say somebody's in the hospital, that's why miracles are formed or happen and stuff like that. Um, but I say all that to say, like, that's there. Those are different words or different ways to describe, and my like help me understand and start to believe more in what prayer is, and uh like how God works in our world, right? Um, and I hate that I had to take the scenic route. I wish I had the belief and the faith to just read it and understand it and just kind of go at that is, but that's not the way I am. But either way, I say that it's important in healing or to dealing with something or to try to even process, like you were talking about, you called your mom. I used to do that too before my mom passed. Was call my mom when stuff, like I felt like one time I was in Korea, um we saw, um it was like a scary movie, right? And we were in like some old dorms in Korea, like 1950, 48 dorms. Like the water that came out was like rust. It was old dorms, right? Or barracks or whatever you want to call them. But that place was, I mean, it's had some history, right? And there's like a handful of times in my life that I felt truly like evil presence, right? Like a presence of evil in it happened in Florida, it's happened here in San Antonio, it's happened a handful of times, right? Where I know something's there. I can't see it, but I can feel it. And it's that primal fear that the only thing that took it away was prayer. And so that's always something I kind of tied to. Uh, that I was like, there's something here, and why didn't any other thing work? Right? Why didn't I pull on anything else? We could argue that's all I knew, all these things, right? But even if that's all I knew, that's all I needed because that's what took it away. You know what I mean? Um,
No, I do, and I think it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning of this open mindedness and this skill. People get I don't want to say shy or whatever. Like, oh, I don't want to talk about religion. I don't want to talk about prayer, or God, and the Lord, and faith, and all this. But it goes back to having an open mind. Like, if you just, I'm not saying that you got to believe what I believe, but if you can have an open mind and understand how I see things and how I read things, that in itself can open your perspective and understanding of so much other things. And then going back to prayer and a skill, and you don't just read the Bible, open it up, and like, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Baptist, or like whatever. Like
yeah,
I'm I believe in this now. Like it takes time, it takes practice, it takes the consistency to constantly read, constantly apply what you're reading, and it's just like anything else. When it's meditation, it's like, man, this doesn't work. Well, yeah, you tried it once for 5 minutes. Like you do it over and over again, and then eventually, kind of to your point, like, man, like that is what I go to now. Like I go to prayer. I feel some type of way. I feel some negativity coming in my life. I feel darkness creeping in, or I'm starting to get in my thoughts again. So I turn to prayer, and it's time and time again. If you constantly practice these things, it's an amazing the, the clarity that you can get from it. Um, but yeah, it again. I don't talk much as openly about my faith, but I've gotten better at doing it. It's just again, it takes time. It's being more open about it, being more vulnerable, and sharing it. And it's just like anything else. It's developing a skill in understanding. Um, yeah, just understanding it.
Yeah, and so there's a couple. Well, there's a lot there, but yeah, I appreciate you sharing and being open, and that's key. And I think a huge problem with our society today that more people are trying to be right rather than trying to understand. It's like when you
And
go
they get
into any,
defensive.
yeah, yeah, when you go into any conversation and you have this, like, when you're already going in to try to win something, you're always going to lose because you're not going to listen. You're not going to have an open heart, open mind. You don't have to believe like these conversations that we have that I've had. I don't believe with like everything that all my guests say, or nor do they believe what I say. Probably some of the stuff are like that dude's friggin' he's got one down one too many rabbit holes. But at the end of the day, it's like that's a question that I think every person may want to consider to discover. At the very least, start putting the threads on, because if there's like a 25% chance that that's true, then that's 25% chance of like one missing out on I don't even know. Like, but that's missing out on a lot. I'll just say that, or having that connection with a divine presence, right? But more so than that, not more so than that, but on the same lines, I'm learning how to talk about this as well, and how to proclaim, and it's not to convince, but it's powerful, right? To be believe in something so much that you can walk in it and talk about it, but not be to the point where you're pushing it on other people, right? And that the biggest thing is embodying it, right? You can read the Bible, but I'm not going to go and like force it on people, or anything. Mountain biking, I'm not going to go and hey man, ride this bike now, and you better do it, because I don't care what the message is. It could be the best message in the world. Like people are gonna like turn away from it, because
One, if
it's
they're not ready to accept it in
yeah,
anything, whether it's just faith, whether it's mountain biking, whether it's help, then
nutrition, yeah,
you're gonna deter them even more. But it goes back to earlier what you were saying is being that leader, being out in nature and embodying it. The more
yeah,
that we constantly show, hey, this is my faith. I'm not preaching it and forcing it on you. But man, when I was in this dark time, I sat in prayer and, it brought me clarity. It brought me a mental focus and it's helped me. I'm not saying that you need to start praying and start doing this, but then I share my story and people are like, maybe I need to look into this, or maybe I need to try this. And it's so much more impactful when that's the approach and not being here and being forced on the people.
yeah, and it's just walking in the way, right, and being that light, sharing your experience, and it's not like, and that's something else too. Like I find it fascinating how, and that's another thing that kind of made me like kind of look over, because I went down like Buddhism, I went down, I would forget the freaking name of it. Um, Different religions, right? I'll just say that. I've gone down the rabbit hole of them. Not all of them. I haven't been alive that long, and nor have I been searching that long, but I have dove down many of them, right? Because some of them, I like the teachings, right? Um, but having said that, Christianity is the one. that most people get angry with, at least in my experience, and I've seen, and people are like either spit on or like get angry so much so that they want to fight. And even like in mainstream like Hollywood or anything like that. And it makes me wonder like why? Like why are you getting so angry like when you protect all these other religions? Like and we're supposed to be in a country of like you practice religious freedom, right? That's what this country is founded on. But it's strange to me, and at the same time, it highlights. It's like anybody that says anything, and religion aside, and people try to shut it up. It makes more people like, hey, why are they telling like to us not to listen to that? So it's gonna make people want to listen to it, right? So it kind of did the same thing for me. It's just like I just saw like in our society how, and I get it, man. The military don't talk about sex, religion, politics, right? Because we're for unit cohesion, right? We have a mission. You got time to be chatting about all that stuff. Talk about other crazy stuff, like aliens and all this other stuff. And that's a whole different rabbit hole. But we talk trash to each other and all that stuff. But I get it for that reason. But if you, I don't know, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle for me, you know? And it's like hearing people's stories or experiences. And I just continue to pull back the layers and have these conversations. And I'm not trying to convince you or prove anything to you. Because at the end of the day, like that's what believing in something truly is you don't have to prove it to other people. They have to prove it to themselves, whether it's true or not. And that's for each person's journey to do for themselves. If they want to ask questions like, hey, how'd you come to that? Oh, this is my experience, and I still don't know. I still have questions about this, and that. Then I'm gonna
Yep.
continue to search, right?
And it's going back to just sharing experiences,
Yeah,
being intentional, true, and authentic. Like again, previously before, like I felt I was misportraying or falsely betraying on who I was as an individual by saying I was a faithful man when I wasn't practicing it. And I have a tattoo on my arm too as well. Light exposes the true character of everyone. Like I continuously to live in this shadow and in this lie until I again started leaning more into my faith, and then asking for forgiveness for all these things that I was doing. But again, it's leaning into it and understanding I don't know it all. I'm learning just like everybody else. And I may read it differently. I may understand it differently. But what my faith has done is open the doors for me to meet so many other people like you and um, other religions and understand how they see things and how they view things. Take it
yeah,
for what it's worth, and just like we say in the military, like put in your toolbox, or again, learn about it, explore it and see. Oh, wow, that is interesting. Whatever the case may be, but it all goes back to being open minded. But again, as long as you're truthful with yourself, you can wake up every single morning, look in the mirror, and know like you are doing your best and you're trying. And that's all anybody can ever ask for. And the more that we continuously have these conversations and portray that, man, it becomes infectious in a good way, and hopefully it helps other people do the same.
yeah, man. And you said it, and that's kind of a common theme too. We're all trying to figure this out. We're all trying to figure some like all this out. And if we can have a space where we can just throw out our ideas, whether they sound dumb or not. I have a lot of dumb questions.
If we
But
if we talk about all the conversations that we've had in the military, we've had some dumb conversations, but we're in a safe space. We hold space for one another. Share these
yeah,
stupid
dude.
ideas.
Yeah. Especially when you're tired and it's like you haven't slept and like you just say something, don't even think, and people are looking at you like, what are you smoking, dude? Like, what are you doing over there? I'm like, I don't even know where I'm at. Like, what country are we in?
Well, yeah, but that's man. If we can get back to that type of space, where we're just comfortable with just being us, being who you are,
Yeah.
without fear of judgment, embarrassment, of looking weak, whatever you want to label it and put it on there. That's
Yeah.
what we just need.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple ways it's applying. Like, don't take yourself so serious. like learn how to laugh at yourself. Like that's one thing my family taught me was like the more you got mad about something they made fun of, the more they made fun of you about whatever. And it just taught me not to take myself serious. And don't get me wrong, when I was young and dumb, I used to get angry and that's why I learned those lessons. And same thing with the military. They like pull on a string and then if it gets under your skin and they keep on and keep on. But at the same
Just like siblings too, man.
yeah, exactly, man. But yeah, so it's listen uh with an open mind, hear it out, and then you don't have to accept everything that you hear, and you don't have to prove anything to anyone. And just I don't know, just listen from a curiosity standpoint. And at the very least, you walk away understanding like where that person's coming from or why they think the way they think.
But
And go ahead.
ultimately, you choose, man. You choose how you react to what's being said and what's being done.
Yeah.
Um, and not allowing them to force something on you and for you. It's very easy to get wrapped up and roped into those conversations. And then again, you go down this rabbit hole of negativity and darkness, and you get frustrated, and it turns into an argument. Like
Hmm.
if it doesn't if it doesn't add value to your life, don't waste your time and energy on it. Then
Yeah.
take it for what it's worth. Have an open mind, but again, don't let it affect you.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, and those are great points. I'll add to that, curate the information, whether people, social media, like have it work for you in the way of like, don't try not to get fixated on the fear mongering, the fear base, like this is coming and like people proclaiming this or that, but like try to look at from a from a 30,000 foot view, like try not to get swept up in it because it's not good for you, especially if it's out of your control. And the only thing you can control, and I heard this couple the last podcast went out today that I did was control your controllables. Like just control what you can and focus on that. Keep your world small. Try not to get fixated and because at the end of the day, whether you believe it or not, you are highly malleable being. So whatever you're ingesting, food, information, people, you will become.
Yep.
And that's why people are outraged like about anything and everything. And I'm not saying that there's not things to be outraged about. What I am saying is like try to look through the veil of it all and to try to keep a level head for your family, your own sanity, and your own, yeah, existence, I should say.
Yeah. Well said, brother. Well said.
Yeah.
Completely agree with that.
Um, so how do you speaking of resilience, what do you do to maintain you said the beach, right? I went to I was at the beach. I haven't been at the beach in a while, but I was at the beach. We went fishing this past weekend. And I'm like, man, I need to do this more. It was just kind of off. Like you have to drive for what and here in Texas, you could drive on the beach in certain parts. And you can drive so far where like there's no one, right? So that was cool. We got to camp on the beach for a couple of days, went fishing, and there was no cell reception. So that was great. But what do you do to to stay resilient, I guess? Like what physical activities do you do? And how do they help you?
The gym has always been a huge outlet for me. Before it was, I would go there to run away from things and let me just burn off some steam. Now I'm more intentional with my workout. I take my time, clear my head. Uh, I'm listening to Christian music, um, and just again, it's just being more intentional with my workouts instead of just fighting off stress and anything else. And then again, just finding a moment, whether it's in the morning, whether it's going to the beach, whether it's even at my house, understanding like I don't always have the opportunity to go to the beach. I would love to go to the beach every single day and just kind of sit there and be in my thoughts and get some clarity. But again, I can't get frustrated. I'm like, damn, this sucks. Like, I'm pissed off and take that out on somebody. So what's my other outlet? And it's recognizing when I'm getting to that point and taking a second to pause and, hey, communicating that with my wife. Like, babe, I I just need a minute. I need to step outside, sit out back. Let me catch my breath and just breathe. And being more open and communicating with her has been extremely helpful. Yeah, again, I'd come home and be all frustrated and pissed off, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And then of course, "Oh, I'm fine," and leave me alone type deal. And it's I don't even have to tell her the detailed thing. It could be something that happened at work. It could be a flashback of something that happened on deployment. I'm just like, "Babe, it's one of those days." And for most of us, like we can't explain it on why it happens or when it occurs. These moments just come up,
Mhm.
but how we react to them is what we can control. So just being more mindful of those situations, being openly communicating of what's going on, like, and it's okay to say, "Babe, I'm not okay right now. I just need a moment."
Mhm.
Instead of the lie, like, "Oh, I'm fine. Just leave me alone." Like, those are two different two
Yeah,
different paths. You go, "Babe, I'm fine. Leave me alone." That's an argument. She's pissed off. You're pissed off. Now you
yeah.
both are like, or it just it was one of those off days. I'm having some thoughts. I just need a moment. And she's like, "Okay, cool." Like, and then she understands that she can, relay that to the kids. I can go sit out on the backyard deck and just let me collect my thoughts. Or even there was there was this one time, it was last month, and I was extremely, extremely irritated. So I checked my wife on the way home and just let her know. So again, she already knew that the mood I was going to be in, and I get home, and then my son's kind of like telling me things, and I didn't want to be frustrated or irritated with him because he's in a good mood. So I was like, "Hey, just give me a second." I immediately went out back, and I went into the cold plunge.
Mm.
So I got a cold plunge in my backyard, and man, just even sitting in the cold plunge for about 4 or 5 minutes, that decompression and that time alone when I got out, like, now I was present in the moment with my son instead of being irritated and frustrated with him. So, like, how do I deal with resiliency? I think again, going back to things that we said before, like, it takes reps. There's I've yelled at my son, I've yelled at my kids, and then now it's like when I get frustrated, it's that let me not yell. Like, let me take a moment, let me take a breath, let me take a pause, let me step outside. And it takes time. It takes, reps over time, over time. It takes communicating. Um, and it's finding things that work. Cold plunge works for me. Going to the gym, going to the beach works for me. Some it's yoga, it's meditation, it's mountain biking, it's journaling, it's it's trying different things to find out, what your niche or to get you to reset and center yourself back so you can be present in the moment, not just for yourself, but for all those around you. Because again, there's been too many times where I've gotten upset and the anger and frustration has gotten the best of me and has affected so many people.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate you sharing that. And same here, dude. I still think back of the times I didn't have my shit together and I had no control, and I don't know. It's interesting how like that starts to become your identity, right? Like I'll speak for myself where it's like these adopted ideas and things that we've learned, and we start to think that like, well, that's how I grew up, so like they'll be all right. But it's like no, like you have a choice in this, and I love the you've learned that and you've adjusted it, and also like I'm glad you also brought up like it is find what works for you. And I tell a lot of vets, like if you're retiring or whatever, transitioning out, or it doesn't even have to be the military. It could be any person that's transitioning out of something where there's going to be like a sense of loss and a sense of not know what to do next. I tell them to try everything. Like try, well, try healthy coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And what I mean is like mountain biking or road cycling or um, hiking or music. Like I play the ukulele, right? Not great. I'm not gonna go on tour, but drawing, writing. You said journaling. Some do video games, but also find something that is gonna help you process whatever it is. Like, because if it's just
Those emotion.
yeah, if you're just like throwing more noise at it, you're just suppressing it. Or if you're using alcohol or weed or whatever, you're just suppressing it. I mean, within the right dose, right?
And like you said, in a healthy environment, healthy situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything in moderation. And I say that like like again, I refer to some book I read, and it said the difference between a poison and a medicine is a dosage. So you can abuse anything, and even if it's under the guise of like, well, it's healthy for you, right? I'm out running. Yeah, but if you're out running and or like hiking or whatever, and it's just taking up all your family time and all this stuff, and it's probably going to be a good situation when you get back. It's just finding the balance within it all, and then just trying like you. I told dudes too, man. Like try basket weaving, whatever. Man, you don't know what you're gonna like, and at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like you could always like have it in your toolbox, as you talked about earlier, and what they tell us in the military. I don't know, like crocheting, whatever, like freaking needling, video editing. That's one other thing I do. It's creative. It helps me, like it's creative outlet for me. But this podcast is something I enjoy to do. And mountain biking, working on bikes, working on cars. The other day I was doing like some woodworking. Um, and it's just having this because sometimes I don't know, you may not be able to ride because it's raining, or you may not be able to play whatever because you're not home, or you're not like, so it's like having these things that you can um, access and it's not going to require equipment all the time.
Yep.
Because you don't know.
Even having someone just to call.
Yep.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Man, on a drive, and I'll do this several times. So I have about a 45-minute drive home, and I'll just start texting people or calling. Call my brothers, I'll call some friends, I'll call some, grads from UHP. Um, and again, just kind of having that conversation uh, can be so decompressing and so positive in so many different ways.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, having that circle and people that can, you know, you can chat with, connect with. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you said before, it's not easy, but it gets easier the more you practice it, the more you get those reps in. And yeah, I mean that's with everything. I use this often, like use your life as you as a for those that play video games as a character, you're building up attributes. You're building up the skills, and each one of these things you're weak in, and try not to allow the excuses like, oh, I can't do that, or I'm not a good reader or whatever. Like I'm learning reading's a skill. I think I said that earlier.
Man, so I used to say this for the longest time. I was like, I used to say I can't read. I don't tell people, oh no, I can't read. All I do is I fall asleep. I don't retain any of the information. So again, I kept telling myself this story over and over again. So I wouldn't read. So I was limiting, my knowledge, my resources, and all these other things. And then it came time I was like, let me stop using this excuse I can't read, that I can't retain knowledge. Let me find ways to understand what I'm reading. So then I got sticky notes. I got highlighters. I'd read a page and I would, I highlight and then I'd read it back. What does this mean to me? And then I started writing it. So did it take 3 months for me to read a book? Yeah, but now instead of creating this excuse and this narrative that I can't read, well, now again changing that narrative, changing that mindset.
Yeah,
So it becomes it. What story do you want to feed yourself? Like I can't read, and I completely negate that and close that option off, or do I find another way? If I can't do it this way, what way can I do it? And we say it all the time, and not a I can't do it. It's just okay. That doesn't work. Let me pivot and find another way. And then now I got a shelf of books of that I've read, and I got a kind of I call it my wait list of books that I've bought that I'll be reading next.
Yeah. Yeah, I got several books too that I'm working on all at once. And I'll take breaks from them too. And I struggle with the same thing, comprehension, um, concentration. But the more I do it, it also helps to read something you're interested in, as opposed to like textbooks or something that's just like freaking paint drying. But another thing you said, and I think it's huge, especially you have kids or nieces or nephews or anyone looking up to you, or in the position you're leading, is the things you say out loud resonate with them. And then if you were saying I can't read, and that's gonna by default will transfer to your kids, right? Where they're gonna start saying that too because they're learning from you. They're learning whether you realize it or not. The people that are around you, you are impacting or influencing, whether negative or positively. So it's also like the level of accountability and like addressing, like, you know what, like you did something about it, right? Or let me change the way that I am choosing to do this so I can better comprehend it. And from what I saw a video recently too, going back to comprehension, it was like that's the best way to read anything is to write it, um, but no, it's highlighting because your brain is absorbing more of that information and sticking more, especially like the writing piece of it. Um, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's and also saying like I can't do it. And it's like just I always say like yet. I can't do it yet. Um,
No,
but
that's huge what you said too. Um, it's the language that we use, not just to ourselves but to our kids too, because it has those ripple effects in a positive and negative way. And if we're constantly showing or saying things and we end up limiting those around us and like, oh well, my dad didn't do this or so and so didn't do this or they can't do that or they didn't try, so I'm not going to try. And again, we may not think in the moment, but those are those ripple effects that can lead on and affect what our kids do in the future.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, and don't sell yourself short. And because I used to say this to myself, even when I was a lower ranking individual, like you don't have to have rank or you don't have to be in a position of power or your leadership position to influence others. I used to be like, no one's gonna listen to me. Like, why would they listen to me? But you don't realize how charismatic you may be. And by you not being aware of that, you could lead people in the wrong direction. So being mindful of that in your presence is huge. Because as I said earlier, we're all like highly influential beings. And our environment dictates our experience and the way we move in the world. That's why social media is so impactful negatively and positively because of yeah, like the other little things that they've done in the background for our psychology. But dude, I really appreciate having you on and you being genuine and showing up and sharing what you shared on many different levels. I don't think this would be the last one. I
Oh,
like to
absolutely not, man.
Yeah, man. I hope you enjoyed it, and the give and take in the conversation, and that's what it's for. I want people to have a good time. And next time, if you do show up, I know we were talking about having this in person. I love to cook for people, and to show my appreciation for their time. Obviously, I owe you either dinner, lunch, or breakfast. And yeah, man. Next time you're in San Antonio, let me know. I'll take you out for a ride and do a podcast and cook something for you.
Absolutely. No, I love this, brother. I appreciate you having me on, man. I look forward to continuing these podcasts with you. But yeah, no, this was awesome, man. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Real quick, dude, you have a clothing line, and I wanted to get into that, but we didn't. But just real quick, just give a shout out to like what you're doing, what the reason is, not the reason, but why you created that, and yeah, here's opportunity.
No, no, yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, so I can't kind of going back to faith. Praised Athletics is the clothing line. faith-based apparel. Again, my abuela, my grandma, very, very religious in her ways. And that kind of bled over to my family and my mom. And I just felt this strong connection when I started renewing my faith. And then so I started making my own shirts and wearing them to the gym, and then people would start asking me about them. So then I created Praise Athletics. Again, just for a way for people to express their own faith without having to have a fear of, talking about it or anything like that. They could just wear it. And it's just Bible verses or some strong, faithful scriptures that resonates with individuals. So yeah, Praise Athletics is the company. Again, faith-based apparel. Again, just trying to help spread the Lord's word and inspire people to wear their faith and be proud of their faith.
And where can they find that?
PraiseAthletics.com.
Okay.
So the website's on there, Instagram, TikTok. It's all just Praised Athletics.
Okay. Awesome, man. I need to probably get one of those shirts and then wear it next time. But yeah, dude, like I appreciate you coming on. Thank you again. And so guys, go check it out. Again, at the end of the day, like if you are struggling with something, this information is just for you to pick and choose from what works for you. At the end of the day, we are not psychologists or just people that care and are sharing our experiences to hopefully resonate with you, at the very least show you that you're not alone in the fight, and you have an opportunity. And if you can find the strength to start digging yourself out of that, or carving a new path for yourself, and that's just by eating the elephant one bite at a time and addressing one issue at a time: sleep, nutrition, what have you. And granted, this is all on a spectrum. And if you guys are really in a bad place, please call 988 or seek out mental professional help or your medical provider. Thank you for your time. And if this podcast helped you or will help some, or somebody else to help, please share that with them. And yeah, thank you.